Task force representing the frustration and despair felt by so many on the front lines right now. Crisis spirals across the U.S. 7,373 lives taken this week. New restrictions being put in place, including here in the original epicenter of New York. The mayor alerting families that schools could shut down in-person learning as Philadelphia and Los Angeles consider new restrictions. And with outbreaks in several states being linked to Halloween, there are major concerns about Thanksgiving, now less than 2 weeks away, becoming the most deadly super spreader event this country has seen. Health officials being very clear as more than half of all Americans are expected to travel. President Trump finally addresses the pandemic today, breaking his silence for the first time in 8 days, still refusing to concede more than a week after Election Day, the final states are called. What Pennsylvania said today about the idea of a recount, and the Trump administration's own report describing this year's election as, quote, the most secure in American history. The hope for an end to the violence between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the human toll of the war in that region, and what sustainable peace might look like after enduring such painful loss. It's been a record-breaking hurricane season, and with a new tropical threat forming in the Caribbean, it's not over yet. And the historic class of women in Congress and what it means for our future.
There's lots of hope because women are getting things done.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Lockdowns loom as COVID cases reach a breaking point, overwhelming hospitals in multiple states. Officials from coast to coast with messages like, we are running out of time and options, and we have no reserves, we have no backup. Nearly 1 million Americans have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 13 days, and a staggering 193,000 in just the past 24 hours. As the president touted a vaccine this afternoon that will not be available to most Americans until at least next year. The realities on the ground are dire as states debate new lockdowns and new restrictions. Dr. Anthony Fauci is urging all Americans to wear a mask and take simple precautions, saying we can turn this around. Our Stephanie Ramos leads us off tonight from New York City, where officials are trying to stave off this latest wave.
Tonight, countdown to a curfew in New York City. In just hours, these restaurants and bars will be forced to close their doors early at 10 o'clock.
If we get shut down again, that 25% indoor, we will not probably going to make it.
Cases soaring to levels not seen since April, and the mayor now warning schools could close.
Parents should have a plan for the rest of the month of November, have an alternative plan for beginning as early as Monday if school is not open.
But Kendra Hall, whose kids are in 4th and 3rd grade in New York City, says it'll be challenging since she and her husband work from home.
Is that frightening to hear that schools may shut down in just the next couple of weeks?
I think we always assumed that schools at some point would shut down.
But New York is desperate to avoid a repeat of the spring, and a vaccine can't come soon enough. Tonight, President Trump with an update, predicting Pfizer will get an emergency authorization for its vaccine soon.
As soon as April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population. The vaccine will be distributed to frontline workers, the elderly, and high-risk Americans immediately.
And tonight, the administration says it expects more good news next week from Moderna, a second vaccine candidate, saying they hope to have enough vaccine doses to immunize 20 million Americans in December, and then 25 to 30 million each month after. But tonight, cases are exploding across this country, a record 193,000 in just the last 24 hours. And the worst is yet to come. The CDC now forecasting up to 282,000 deaths by December 5th, when about 2,000 Americans could lose their lives every day. Hospitals are just struggling to keep up.
It bothers me that people don't believe how quickly people can get severely sick and be intubated or die, because the numbers are real. I see this every day.
States are bracing for a flood of patients, from Massachusetts, where they're reopening this field hospital, to Reno, Nevada, where 700 beds have been set up in this hospital parking garage. This week, Republican governors in Utah, Iowa, and Ohio ordering mask mandates. This health official in Missouri begging for just that.
Our healthcare heroes have fought valiantly day after day, but we have no reserves.
But 11 states still have no mask restrictions, like South Dakota, where a staggering 68% of people are testing positive. Today, Elaine McRae was laid to rest in Mississippi. The cardiac nurse had raised 4 children as a single mom and volunteered to work with COVID patients before her own lungs were destroyed by the virus.
The compassion that you should feel when you see that number should go beyond just a statistic. It should be, that's a human being.
And don't take this virus for granted, because it is very real.
Right. Some still look at those case numbers as just statistics, forgetting the lives they represent. Stephanie Ramos joins us now from New York. Stephanie, tell us more about that new curfew set to go into effect tonight.
So that curfew goes into effect tonight at 10 o'clock across New York State. It applies to bars, gyms, and restaurants, but there's also a limit to indoor gatherings. No more than 10 people are allowed to gather inside, even if it's a private home. Local governments are responsible for enforcement, and so far, the state says that they could add additional restrictions. Lindsay.
Stephanie Ramos for us tonight. Thanks so much, Stephanie. And now with Thanksgiving fast approaching, tonight officials are warning Americans to stay at home or take major precautions if they must hit the road, fearing your turkey dinner could become another super spreader event. Our Alex Perez reports.
Tonight, dire new warnings about the dangers of Thanksgiving gatherings as experts predict the highest level of travel since the beginning of the pandemic. All this as we learn about new outbreaks linked to Halloween. One party in Missouri leading to at least 5 infections and as many as 200 high school students exposed. Chicago's mayor mincing no words.
You must cancel the normal Thanksgiving plans, particularly if they include guests that do not live in your immediate household.
We tend to feel safe with the people that we know and we love.
ICU Dr. John Coleman has seen beds once again fill up here at Northwestern Memorial. He's pleading with people not to let their guards down this Thanksgiving.
How do you space everybody out? Who prepares the food? It gets very complicated, and people tend to let down those defenses when they're with family.
Tonight, the governors of California, Oregon, and Washington issuing a holiday travel advisory, urging visitors to quarantine for 14 days and avoid in-person gatherings. Health experts say even if you are indoors, wear a mask.
We don't want this to become another set of super spreader events.
Norma Flowers died from COVID in July. Her daughter Glenda now making this plea.
Don't have big gatherings because you'd rather lose one Thanksgiving and be able to share all the rest of them with your family.
Their family gatherings usually include dozens of people. Not this year, says Glenda's sister, Christine.
We look forward to the next Thanksgiving to where, those hugs will feel even better.
Thanksgiving for so many canceled this year, but Alex Perez joins us now from Chicago. And Alex, there are growing calls tonight for families who still plan to gather for Thanksgiving to start taking precautions now.
Yeah, Lindsay, the clock is ticking for Thanksgiving. Policy Lab's advice for families is to start quarantine on Monday. They also recommend you quarantine for about 10 days after the holiday. Lindsay?
Alex Perez, thanks so much. And for more now on the COVID crisis in America, we bring in ABC News contributor Dr. John Brownstein. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor. Now, these COVID statistics are certainly frightening. Since each state has its own rules about lockdown measures, what do all Americans need to do to stay safe, particularly over the coming Thanksgiving holiday?
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. I mean, we are heading into the hardest days of this pandemic just as we get to Thanksgiving, right? We're seeing this exponential growth, daily records over and over again. We're expecting 200,000 cases a day going into Thanksgiving. So you superimpose Thanksgiving travel, that's a major event to move respiratory viruses around this country. So we have to be incredibly vigilant. So that means for Thanksgiving, probably keeping the Thanksgiving to your household, limiting travel, if weather permits, trying to stay outside at a safe distance, and really keep doing our part around social distancing and mask wearing. I know it's the same things we've been saying all along. And of course, if you do want to travel and see others, then you need to be thinking about that 14-day quarantine as of today. And before that, staying away from other people, and then of course, getting those tests. Focus on the low risk activities, small gatherings, virtual events. If we can stay away from shopping and big parades and sporting events, now is really the time that we need to clamp down if we're going to get through this winter.
Now, public health experts are advising President-elect Joe Biden to propose a so-called targeted dimmer switch strategy for imposing new restrictions after one advisor suggested that we may need a 4 to 6 week national lockdown. Which approach makes the most sense to you?
Yeah, so most public health experts agree that a lockdown is an extreme strategy. We don't want to go there. Dr. Osterholm, who mentioned this, really was saying that, of course, 46 weeks lockdown could bring transmission down, but it's not something that anyone is realistically trying to implement right now. We want to keep our schools open. We're trying to keep the economy going. And the issue is, how do you sort of tweak and create a more nuanced approach to interventions? Hotspots should see more closures, like, for instance, indoor dining. And it's really going to be about, these larger efforts like national testing, a national mask mandate. The Biden plan has many elements of this. It's much more sort of nuanced based on geography rather than some national lockdown, which we all clearly want to avoid at all costs.
Now, President Trump assured Americans tonight that a highly effective vaccine would be available to some starting next month. With such a fast development and approval process, should we be concerned about safety?
Yeah, I mean, clearly everyone wants a vaccine and they want it soon, but they also want it to be incredibly safe. The early data is super promising. We're seeing 90% efficacy, which is way more than we thought. But, the data so far is from a press release. We haven't started seeing the safety data. All signs point to it being a safe vaccine, but clearly we're going to be waiting for that data. On top of that, yes, it's been fast, but it's also being the same process as we always have around vaccines. We're using the same endpoints. The pharma companies have been incredibly careful about collecting data. So yes, we will have enough data to make a safe determination about the vaccines, and there's a lot of confidence among healthcare that we will have a vaccine that can be deployed. Now, of course, we don't have a lot of data on whether this vaccine will limit severe cases or how long immunity lasts. A lot of big questions are still open about this vaccine, but I think overall we'll have confidence that the process is going to work.
Now, with it being months before most Americans would get a vaccine, how do we combat fatigue over social distancing and mask-wearing guidelines?
Yeah, I mean, this is, among all public health people right now, this is the big worry, right? Pandemic fatigue. We still have months to go and many months before anybody can get a vaccine. So the question is, are you willing to wear a mask? Simple piece of cloth to sort of limit the transmission. We know that a national effort around masks can drive transmission down. That's a path to seeing a normal life. The question is, are we willing to do it? Right now, we're seeing many parts of this country getting overloaded, right, with hospitalizations. We're going to see deaths increasing. Are we willing to see that, or are we willing to do some of these sort of minor tweaks to our lives to get this pandemic out of control? If we can do these things, we can avoid a lockdown, because truthfully, it won't be just about pandemic fatigue. It'll be about a national lockdown to get this virus under control. And again, we're trying to avoid these major interventions at all costs.
And just because I'm sure inquiring minds want to know, is that a Dr. Anthony Fauci pillow behind you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, Fauci on the couch, always looking over.
Dr. Brownstein, thank you. Got to try and get in a light note when we can in the midst of all this news. All right, thanks so much. Now to the race for the White House. And tonight we finally have results in all 50 states. ABC News projects Joe Biden will win the states of Georgia and Arizona, flipping them both from red in 2016 to blue in 2020, while President Trump holds on to North Carolina. And that makes this the final map, with 306 electoral college votes for Biden and 232 for President Trump. But President Trump has still not conceded the election. He did, however, break his silence today in the Rose Garden remarks on the latest progress on a coronavirus vaccine. ABC's Terry Moran is in Washington, tracking it all.
The president walked out into the Rose Garden today. The reality has become even harder to deny. Joe Biden now projected as the winner of both Arizona and Georgia, giving him 306 electoral votes, the same number Trump got in 2016, which back then he called a landslide. But today the president acknowledged none of that, instead touting progress on a COVID vaccine.
No medical breakthrough of this scope and magnitude has ever been achieved this rapidly, this quickly.
Trump did not address the disastrous spike in COVID cases across the country. During the campaign, he insisted it was all going away.
COVID, 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 COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't hear about it anymore.
Today, Trump declared the nation won't go into another lockdown. But for the first time, he seemed to acknowledge his time in the White House is running short.
Ideally, we won't go to a lockdown. I will not go. This administration will not be going to a lockdown. Hopefully, the whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be. I guess time will tell. But I can tell you this administration will not go to a lockdown.
Trump's refusal to admit defeat is throwing a wrench into Biden's plan to tackle the virus. His team has been blocked from coordinating with the White House Coronavirus Task Force.
As time passes, the need to get the full access we are entitled to, and the full access that the American people want us to have, it grows each day.
President Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, agrees, today telling Politico, you lose a lot if the transition is delayed because the new people are not allowed to get their head in the game. It's about the nation. It hurts our national security. But the president and his team are living in an alternate reality.
It would look pretty bad if he did not attend the inauguration. It would sound like, look like sour grapes, wouldn't it?
I think the president will attend his own inauguration. He would have to be there, in fact.
Most Republican senators are playing along. Only 4 have acknowledged Biden as president-elect. Former President Obama tells 60 Minutes that's deeply troubling.
It is one more step in delegitimizing not just the incoming Biden administration, but democracy generally. And that's a dangerous path.
The administration's own Department of Homeland Security determined the November 3rd election was the most secure in American history. There is no evidence that any voting system deleted or lost votes, changed votes, or was in any way compromised. Still, today the president once again made the claim on Twitter that the election was rigged. But day after day, courts are rejecting his claims of fraud. Today, judges in Michigan and Pennsylvania threw out Trump's cases for lack of credible evidence.
Terry Moran joins us now. Terry, the president seemed to acknowledge that he may not run the next administration, but meanwhile, his campaign's lawsuits challenging the vote continue on. But as you said, it seems like judges aren't finding much merit in their arguments.
You know, Lindsay, they're getting tattooed. Not only are they losing cases, I think they're 1-19 at this point in courts in all kinds of states, state and federal, Republican judges, Democratic judges. But it is the language that these courts are using to dismiss these claims right away that is really quite striking. Let me just give you an example. In Michigan today, there was an effort by the Trump campaign and supporters to attack the legitimacy of the vote in Wayne County. That's Detroit. They offered 6 witnesses. And the way the judge in this case dismissed those witnesses, saying he's got a few journal facts with speculation and sinister guesswork. It is just the kind of language that says, get out of my courtroom. So not only are they not making their case, the judges are really kicking them out of court.
And also back to the president's pandemic response, he touted the progress on a vaccine, but he said very little today, acknowledging the current spike in hospitalizations and deaths from this virus.
You know, Lindsay, this is the way the president has dealt with this pandemic since it came into the human species back at the beginning of the year. He just wanted it to go away. He's wished it away. He said it would go down to 0. And today, once again, with this really alarming spike across the country, the president says it's going to go down. It's going to go down quickly. We've heard that so often. And it is so odd as he wrestles with his electoral defeat that really that's probably the reason he lost more than any other. His handling of this pandemic in this way, where he just didn't come to grips with it and tried to talk his way out of it. The virus can't get talked away. Lindsay?
Indeed, you're right. Okay, Terry Moran for us in the nation's capital. Thanks so much, Terry. Rivers are still rising after the remnants of Tropical Storm Ada, and a second storm system caused some of the worst flooding in Virginia and North Carolina in 25 years. 4 people were killed after flash flooding washed through a North Carolina campground. And now a new tropical wave is developing in the Caribbean. That could become the 30th named storm of the year. Here's ABC's senior meteorologist Rob Marciano.
Hey, good evening, Lindsay. Just as Ada makes its way out into the Atlantic, Iota forms in the Caribbean, our 30th named storm of this record-breaking hurricane season, and it is targeting an area that's already been hit hard just within the past week. Here it is on the satellite picture. You see it getting more organized about 300 miles south of Kingston, Jamaica, and heading to the west towards Honduras and Nicaragua. These are the 2 countries that got crushed by Ada just a week ago with Category 4 winds and torrential rain. And look at this, Category 3 storm expected to make landfall there sometime on Monday, right in the very same spot that Ada made landfall just a week ago. more flooding rains, similar hazards, and these people are not even close to recovering from the last storm. All right, I want to show you this interesting graphic. This shows you all the hurricane and tropical storm alerts this hurricane season. The entire East Coast got one, and the entire Gulf Coast, with the exception of one Florida county, had an alert of a tropical nature here, and just one more record that was shattered during this hurricane season. All right. It is also getting now into winter storm season, and we're seeing a pretty intense one impacting much of the Intermountain West and the Pacific Northwest. This storm brought in 60-plus mile-per-hour winds in Oregon and Washington, with snows shutting down I-90 at some point just west of Spokane. And you see all the winter weather alerts there and wind advisories in California. Reno, Cheyenne, you're getting big winds. Rapid City, Denver under high wind watch and warning there, with snow falling in the mountains 1 to 2 feet of it. So we've got winter on one side of the country and tropical storms continuing to impact, or at least threaten, the southeast coast. Ain't over till it's over. Lindsay?
And it's not over. Rob, our thanks to you. When we come back, what a Georgia judge said to the father and son charged in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. Details from their bond hearing today. As President Trump could be facing potential legal and financial jeopardy when he leaves office, a look at whether a controversial self-pardon could actually solve every legal test on the horizon. That's next. And later in the show, after 45 years, a mother and son's emotional reunion. You will not want to miss this.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Your mom said, comb your hair. Your dad told you, smarten up. Your dog is judging you right now. And your best friend just called you crazy. We all need someone who'll pull no punches and give it to us straight. Now, imagine getting your news like that. No bull, no spin, just give it to me straight. Straightforward news, straight to the heart of the story. ABC News, straightforward.
The Americans here on the ground and the Iraqis, 18,000 tons. Batatas. Ismail? David. Over ground zero from Hurricane Michael. You can see just home after home. David, nice to meet you. This was your view.
My favorite view.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Friday nights, 9/8 Central. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime. 2020. Friday nights, 9/8 Central on ABC.
Susan Powell was a young, beautiful mother. She just one night vanished.
Where is Susan?
July 29th, making sure that if something happens to me, our assets are documented.
Josh, did you kill your wife? And I'll never forget the first time that I met him. A chill just raced up through my spine. I just shook the hand of a killer.
Now, new details, stunning new interviews.
He ends up revealing the biggest bombshell.
What will happen next? The new 2020 event tonight on ABC.
Democrats did not do as well as they would have hoped in congressional races this election, losing seats in the House. And of course, the Senate is still up for grabs with 2 runoff elections in Georgia in January. Joining us now is a Democrat who greatly improved on her 2018 win in what used to be a red district in suburban Atlanta and is now shifted purple or even blue. Representative Lucy McBath, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I should mention you're also re-releasing your book next week, Standing Our Ground. We'll get to that in just a minute. First, though, have to ask, with your state now projected to turn blue, you've said never forget what happened in Georgia this election. What do you believe happened in Georgia this election that helped Democrats flip the state? And can the party recreate that again in January with the Senate on the line, even though the White House is not at stake?
Well, I believe there was so much synergy and excitement on the ground here in Georgia, and I believe that's really been a focal point for us since 2016. And I'm so proud of the candidates that we've had all up and down the ballot, and especially those Senate candidates that we have now that are going to the runoff. I think John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock are just amazing human beings. And I know that I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure that they get elected. And Georgia has been in the minds of a lot of people across the nation for some time. As I've always said, that this is the new South. Don't count us out. The work that Stacey Abrams has done on the ground since 2016 to really help generate a lot of energy and getting people registered to vote and making sure that every vote counts. I think that's what we saw.
Now, Democrats will lose several members of the House. Why do you think that Democrats didn't do as well in down-ballot elections elsewhere? In a lot of cases, voters chose Biden at the top of the ticket, but then a Republican for the Senate or House.
Well, of course, you know, I wish, like many of us, that we had picked up more House seats. But ultimately, you know, what was accomplished is that we had the president. You know, here, President Trump became a one-term president, and we have to get back to work winning these seats all over again, because so many people are still relying on us to do the work that they're counting on us to do. We have to expand and protect access to health care. We need to make sure that we keep our communities safe from unnecessary gun violence. And of course, because of COVID-19, now we're dealing with getting our workers back to work, keeping people healthy and safe. So these are the things that people are counting on us to do. So we've got to go back to the trenches. We've got to get back to work. And I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to do so.
And as you just started touching upon, COVID is, of course, surging across the country right now. The positivity rate in Georgia, in fact, is nearly 8%. As we look ahead to the holiday season, what changes do you feel that Americans need to make in their daily behavior? And what can state and local officials do to help slow the spread?
Well, I think first and foremost, we've got to listen to the healthcare providers. We've got to listen to the scientists and healthcare providers and researchers that are giving us the data and the information that we need to make smarter decisions about how we're going to operate day to day and what we now call our new normal. Listen to the CDC guidelines and listen to the COVID task force that the president-elect is creating right now. So I think if we listen to the science, if we adhere to the guidelines, do the best that we possibly can, not to only keep ourselves safe, but others safe, I really believe that we'll be able to turn the tide towards health and wellness and prosperity again for the United States.
Of course, economic stimulus talks seem to be stalled again, given that Republicans haven't budged on rejecting a $2 trillion package. Do you think that Democrats should compromise on a smaller package to address immediate needs now, knowing that you have Joe Biden in the White House in January to propose further needed stimulus later?
Well, I know that personally I'm going to do all that I can to work across the aisle, as I've done in the past, work across the aisle with my Republican colleagues, and I'll work with anyone that is willing to get something done on behalf of our communities and the thousands upon thousands of people in our districts that really are depending on us to set things right for them.
I'd like to switch gears now and ask about your son, who was murdered 8 years ago this month, shot after being confronted for playing loud music. Does the fact that you've been able to turn your activism into action help in some way with coping with your loss?
Absolutely it does. The work that I have done since my son was murdered is just me still loving my child, still loving him and caring for him, and it's a sense of protecting him. What I've basically done in the transition since Jordan has been murdered, the transition into advocacy, gun violence prevention advocacy, and now as a member of Congress, it's just taking all that I would be giving to my son and just translating that and giving that to my community and the people that I live among every single day. And that's just truly, I'm just still being a mother on a mission, protecting those that I love and care about.
And as you're set now to release a new foreword to your book reflecting on your time in office, what advice would you give grieving parents and the many who feel like the system has failed them when it comes to systemic racism, gun control, social justice, you name it? Do you think that despite gridlock in Washington that we might see meaningful gun control legislation in these next 4 years?
I do believe that we will see changes in our gun laws. The fact that I ran on a gun safety platform here in Georgia and in a red state, and I was elected on a gun safety platform because simply no one wants to be me. I believe that things are changing. People are really looking for candidates. They're looking for representatives that stand for their morals and their values and are willing to go to bat for them in Washington to keep them healthy and to keep them safe, to make sure that their future generations are provided for. And so I really do believe that we're going to continue to see those kinds of changes. And I think think that I'm a perfect representative of that.
And finally, when you take your seat in the 117th Congress in January, there will be more women by your side than ever before. A record, at least 135 women and 49 women of color were elected this November. And of course, history was made with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Regardless of political beliefs, what message does this send to young girls out there?
I think it's a phenomenal message of hope. Women and young girls, we have been the focal points of our communities and our homes doing the work. We've been in the trenches. We've been leaders not only in our homes, but in our communities, in our schools, school districts, municipalities. And so it gives a sense of hope that there's nothing that we can't do. And women have been doing the work. We balance and juggle different balls all the time. But what we do know is how to get things done. And we pick up a challenge, we move forward, and we create value for people that we love and care for. So this sends a phenomenal sense of hope to young women all across the country that would want to stand up and create value for the people that they care about in their communities and America at large. There's lots of hope because women are getting things done.
Representative Lucy McBath, again, re-releasing your book next week, Standing Our Ground. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
When President Trump leaves office in just 68 days, he'll return to the world of average citizen, a world without special privileges and immunities of the presidency. And while President Trump has often been at the center of numerous lawsuits, tonight we take a closer look at the wave of legal jeopardy that could be on the horizon and why a controversial potential self-pardon might not solve every coming legal test. Here's Devin Dwyer.
Hi, Donald John Trump.
For years, Donald Trump has used the presidency as a legal shield.
The worst presidential harassment in history.
But outside the White House, a new reality awaits.
He's an ordinary citizen. Full stop. I mean, we actually had an entire revolution against the idea of kingly prerogative and the idea that a king is above the law.
No former president has ever been criminally investigated or charged with a crime. But Trump will leave office implicated in multiple active investigations into personal conduct from before the presidency.
There are credible allegations that Donald Trump has engaged in tax fraud, bankruptcy fraud, probate fraud, and that's unprecedented. We've never had an allegation of pre-presidential criminal conduct follow a president after he leaves office.
In New York, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance is leading a criminal probe into Trump's business practices. While Vance has not spelled out specific allegations of wrongdoing, he's seeking 8 years of Trump's tax returns. Last summer, the U.S. Supreme Court said Trump did not have immunity from subpoenas.
And there's no reason for the president's accounting firm, Mazars, or former accounting firm, to resist those subpoenas anymore.
How critical are those documents? What could they show?
The tax returns would be important for Cyrus Vance to explore, but probably triangulating those tax returns with other sources of financial information that he's been able to obtain or is still trying to obtain.
Trump is the first president in 40 years to refuse to release his taxes. According to the New York Times, decades of Trump's tax return data it obtained appears to show the billionaire businessman paid no federal income tax in 10 of the last 15 years. And starting in 2010, claimed an income tax refund of $72.9 million, which the Times says is now at the center of an IRS audit.
Actually, I paid tax, and you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time. The IRS does not treat me well.
The Times also reported Trump has more than $300 million in debt coming due in the next 4 years, on top of $100 million tax payment due in 2022 and potentially $100 million more if he loses his refund battle with the IRS.
The amount of money, $400 million, is a peanut.
Trump's financial records are also at the center of a New York State investigation into possible financial fraud, as alleged by former Trump personal attorney Michael Cohen.
It was my experience that Mr. Trump inflated his total assets when it served his purposes, such as trying to be listed amongst the wealthiest people in Forbes, and deflated his assets to reduce his real estate taxes.
New York State Attorney General Letitia James is actively investigating Cohen's claims.
The outcome of the election will have no impact on our investigations. And so we will continue our investigations, again, related to the testimony of Michael Cohen. No one is above the law, and that our investigations have nothing to do with politics, but more to do with the facts.
Their aggressiveness in seeking additional information is indicative of the seriousness with which they're treating the allegations and of their conviction that the investment of resources will prove worthwhile.
Legal experts say Trump will soon likely face new subpoenas for documents and testimony. He last gave a deposition in 2016, just before winning office, in a civil case he brought against a former business partner.
I do.
Well, there simply is no immunization for a former president whatsoever. And we could actually see something we have never seen before in this country, which is the criminal trial of a former president.
And Trump's also facing fallout from allegations of sexual misconduct dating back decades. E. Jean Carroll, a former Elle magazine writer, claims Trump raped her in a Bergdorf Goodman dressing room in the mid-90s. No charges were brought, but after President Trump accused Carroll of lying, she sued for defamation. A federal judge this week said the case can go forward.
I have no idea who this woman is. This is a woman who's also accused other men of things, as you know. It is a totally false accusation.
Suffice it to say that his lawyers will have plenty of action in the coming years, and the criminal side of it may be the least of the concerns.
There's also a new lawsuit from within his own family. Niece Mary Trump filing suit in September, alleging her uncle Donald fraudulently kept her from a financial stake in the family's business. The president has called his niece an opportunistic disgrace.
To be disinherited, to be shut out entirely from the wealth of the family, was to be told quite explicitly that you don't count and you are not loved.
As he enters the post-presidency, Donald Trump facing an unprecedented array of legal challenges. But one big unanswered question, whether the Biden administration will pile on.
I will not interfere with the Justice Department's judgment of whether or not they think they should pursue the prosecution of anyone that they think has violated the law.
I do believe that the Justice Department will be very leery of bringing prosecutions of a former president, especially when the results of the election have been so hotly contested by that former president.
Regardless, President Trump has floated the idea of preemptively pardoning himself.
And yes, I do have an absolute right to pardon myself.
A right not spelled out in the Constitution and never tried before. It also does not apply to state investigations like the criminal probe in New York.
Criminal cases, by and large, move somewhat quicker, and they're the ones that carry with them at least the potential for prison time.
So a pardon from himself or from his vice president would go no distance at all to exonerating him or immunizing him against those state legal proceedings.
Proceedings now gaining steam as Trump's former hometown becomes ground zero for his legal battles in the days ahead. For ABC News Live, I'm Devin Dwyer in Washington.
Our thanks to Devin. And coming up, the chilling new details about the alleged domestic terror plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. The state's attorney general says the suspects tried to recruit hundreds of militia members to storm the state capitol, televise executions, and set the building on fire. The deadly explosion on the grounds of a VA hospital, authorities reveal the likely cause. And right after the break, the latest on the vote count, more states being called, and some context on President-elect Biden and President Trump's electoral college wins.
In times like these, the news-making events happen here. ABC News.
President Trump meeting face-to-face with one of the world's most brutal dictators, Kim Jong-un.
The president.
Do you trust him? I do trust him, yeah. I think he trusts me, and I trust him.
Ivanka Trump.
I have to ask you about your emails. Your father had taken Hillary Clinton to task for this.
There just is no equivalency.
So the idea of lock her up doesn't apply to you?
No.
Comey.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
Very strange.
Michelle Obama.
What do you wish you could tell your pre-White House self?
Melania Trump.
Do you think there's still people there that he can't trust?
Yes.
Still working now?
Yes.
Michael Cohen.
So he's still lying.
Yes.
It's a big statement.
And now, in a year with so much on the line, we're right there.
Good evening tonight from Washington, a very busy news night.
America's #1 news source, ABC News, straightforward.
We all need someone who'll pull no punches and give it to us straight. No bull, no spin. Now imagine getting your news like that. Just give it to me straight. ABC News, straightforward.
Another week in America, a country facing a new test now.
The Wuhan airport, almost no one here.
The last flight out of Rome.
This is the nursing home just outside Seattle. Dozens of people were just rushed off this cruise ship.
This is ground zero.
It is shut down.
Another ambulance just pulled out.
Now they're headed to the hospital.
Time is of the essence.
You can see the ship behind me.
This is the first time tests have been done here.
Morning, afternoon, evening, late night, 24/7. ABC News, there for you.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, free on Apple Podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone. We turn now to the latest vote count. President-elect Joe Biden has decisively beaten President Trump despite Trump's baseless objections, and ABC News can now project the winner in all 50 states. Here's a recap by the numbers. Biden is projected to win 306 electoral votes, and Trump is projected to win 232. Now, incredibly, that was the exact same elector split in 2016, except then it was Trump with 306 electoral votes against Hillary Clinton's 232 votes. Biden is now projected to win Georgia, where he leads by more than 14,000 votes as the state does a hand recount of ballots. It's the first time since Bill Clinton's 1992 victory that a Democratic presidential candidate has carried Georgia. Biden is also projected to win Arizona with a lead of about 11,000 votes, but Trump is now projected to win North Carolina, where he's ahead by nearly 74,000 votes. Biden's lead in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania has now grown to more than 60,000 votes, and despite the Trump campaign's numerous legal challenges, the Secretary of State said she will not order a recount. In Michigan, Biden is now ahead by more than 148,000 votes, and in Wisconsin, another key battleground, Biden leads by more than 20,000 votes. Still lots ahead here on Prime. History being made as Americans blast into outer space once again. Our Gio Benitez at Cape Canaveral tonight. The painfully harsh realities of the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Can there be lasting peace with so much hurt and anger? And the barrier-breaking milestone for the new general manager of the Miami Marlins. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
Right now, this is part of the eye wall. This procession of migrants goes back 2 miles.
There is going to be catastrophic damage.
This fire has made a run. You can see those flames shooting up into the sky.
We are on the jam-packed red carpet.
To the right, guys.
So this is the 4th weekend of protest.
Watch ABC News on location for Facebook Watch.
What's the most innovative daily news podcast out there to listen to every day? Well, the Edward R. Murrow Awards say it's Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. Even the New York Times calls us a top news podcast worth listening to. So if you like getting behind the biggest news stories of the day, inside all the details, the backstory, and what will happen next, then listen to Start Here, the daily news podcast from ABC News. It's like no other news podcast out there. Even the critics agree. Listen free on Apple Podcasts.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you.
ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
The Americans here on the ground and the Iraqis. 18,000 tons. Patatas. Ismail? David. Over ground zero from Hurricane Michael. You can see just home after home.
David, thanks to meet you.
This was your view.
My favorite view.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This week alone, 1 in every 378 Americans testing positive for COVID-19, leading to a record high 150,526 new coronavirus cases reported in just one day. And for the first time in more than a week, President Trump speaking to the American public, giving an update on Operation Warp Speed.
We will work to secure an emergency use authorization, which should be coming down extremely soon. And my administration will then coordinate the distribution of the vaccine, and it will be approved. I think, again, it will be approved very, very quickly, we hope.
President today lit into Governor Cuomo, who has promised a review panel on any vaccine to make sure that it's safe and effective.
The vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically, I think it's very bad from a health standpoint, but he wants to take his time with the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from.
Everything is personal with this president. There can't be a disagreement on principle. Yeah. And he retaliates. He uses the government as a retaliatory tool. That's what he does.
Hopefully whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be. I guess time will tell. But I can tell you this administration will not go to a lockdown.
The president's trade advisor on Fox Business this morning still pushing the fantasy that Trump will win.
We're moving forward here at the White House under the assumption that there will be a second Trump term.
Biden's newly appointed chief of staff saying the General Services Administration not accepting Biden as president-elect and the beginning transition process that goes along with that could have serious consequences. At least 10 Republican senators are calling on the Trump administration to start providing classified briefings to Biden and Kamala Harris. ABC News projecting Donald Trump to win North Carolina, but Biden to win both Arizona and Georgia. The battleground state is beginning a ballot audit today.
A judge in Georgia has denied bond for the father and son charged in the fatal shooting of black jogger Ahmaud Arbery. Gregory and Travis McMichael are facing felony murder charges. Arbery's mother, Wanda Cooper Jones, speaking out just before the judge's decision.
Each time I step into a courtroom, I have to rehash what happened back in February all over again.
Do you have faith in the justice system?
Not at all at this point.
An apparent steam explosion in a maintenance building at a Veterans Affairs hospital in Connecticut has killed 2 people.
One of those employees was a Navy veteran. As a veteran, he wanted to take care of fellow veterans. It's moments like that that really tear at your heart and tear at your soul.
Paris this morning. Alexander. Mourners marked 5 years since 130 people were killed in an ISIS terror attack at the Bataclan Concert Hall, Paris cafes, and the National Stadium.
Miami Marlins made history today by hiring Kim Ng to become Major League Baseball's first female general manager. Ng has long been expected to be the first woman to break the barrier. She's been the league's senior vice president of baseball operations for the past 9 seasons. She spent some time in the Yankees organization, and it was Marlins CEO Derek Jeter who signed off on her hire. He must have liked what he saw. She's worked with teams that made the playoffs 8 times and won 3 World Series titles. Congratulations.
Back now with disturbing new details about that alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Prosecutors today say the extremists plan to burn down the state capitol with no one coming out alive. Our Adrian Bankert has the chilling developments.
Tonight, new disturbing details of that alleged kidnapping plot show that Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer was only one alleged target of suspected homegrown terrorists who were planning to violently overthrow the state government. Court documents claim the alleged ringleader, Adam Fox, sought to recruit 200 men to storm the Capitol building and televise the execution of politicians taken hostage over the course of about 1 week, with no one coming out alive. Investigators say a second alleged plan involved locking people inside the building and setting it on fire. Authorities releasing video of some of the suspects firing guns in a makeshift boot camp. ABC News visited an alleged training site raided by the FBI with one of the suspect's neighbors.
There were many times that me and my wife, we would hear gunshots, and it sounded like automatic weapons. You can hold the trigger, it goes brrr, and I've heard that. And I've heard explosives going off.
Of the 14 suspects taken into custody on state and federal charges, 2 appeared in court today seeking bond reductions. Defense attorneys for some of the suspects have claimed the alleged plot was nothing more than a lot of big talk. Lindsay, a judge did decide today to reduce the bond for 2 of the suspects. They were released with restrictions. Meanwhile, 6 suspects remain in custody facing federal charges. Lindsay?
Adrian, thanks. And an update now on a story that we brought you last night, the tragic death of 15-year-old Kawan Charles. ABC News has obtained a preliminary report from the medical examiner's office that states the teen's cause of death was likely due to drowning. Kawan's family suspects foul play was involved, and they are now awaiting the results of their own independent autopsy report. Overseas tonight, Armenia and Azerbaijan brokered a peaceful deal that ended weeks of fighting and bloodshed. But for many, a fight for survival is still underway tonight, and with it, concerns about an uncertain future ahead. Our Patrick Reevell reports.
After weeks of ferocious fighting, the war for Nagorno-Karabakh has ended, but the loss continues. Some of the images coming out of the contested region are too gruesome to show. Bodies piled on the side of the road in uniform. It's hard to tell which country they're from. This week, Armenia's defense of Nagorno-Karabakh buckled to Azerbaijan, setting off an exodus. Vehicles packed with wounded soldiers, traffic snarled to a crawl as ethnic Armenians try to get out.
I don't want to leave. I want to stay at home, in the village, but we were told we have to leave.
In Armenia, the shock and anger are palpable. Protesters storming government buildings in Armenia's capital, throwing bottles and hand sanitizers at politicians, furious by what they see as a surrender by their prime minister.
We have come here to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. From today, he is considered a prime traitor of his country and his people.
The current conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh is decades old. A war in the 1990s saw Armenia triumphant, leaving ethnic Armenians in control and forcing hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis to flee. In September, Azerbaijan launched an offensive to retake the region, unleashing a large-scale war. Civilian areas bombarded, Azerbaijani drones taking a heavy toll on Armenian forces. Thousands of troops killed on both sides.
All I know is that I'll have to bury 2 of my cousins tomorrow. How should I feel?
Tens of thousands of civilians displaced. Armenian refugees were left living in hotels and kindergartens. But this week, the war came to an abrupt end. Azerbaijan took the town of Shusha, called Shushi by Armenians. The city is strategically located near Nagorno-Karabakh's capital.
As soon as there was an Azerbaijani flag over Shusha, President Aliyev could basically declare victory.
Soon after, Armenia effectively surrendered, forced to make peace on Azerbaijan's terms.
In the existing situation, there was no chance of making another decision.
The 2 countries agreed a deal to end the war, brokered by Russia and Turkey. Under the deal, Azerbaijan will keep the areas of Nagorno-Karabakh it has taken, and Armenian forces will withdraw from several others, leaving the region split. 2,000 Russian soldiers have been deployed to keep the peace. They rolled into the region within hours. In Azerbaijan, euphoric celebrations broke out in the capital of Baku. Hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis were displaced during the 1990s war. Some of them dream of returning. Now it is Armenians who have to leave. Some even burning their homes rather than leaving them for the Azerbaijanis. The latest turn in a terrible cycle that's been repeated here for over a century. The fight for land always coming at a heavy human cost. Tatavik Virabyan is one of those who's lost her home. She's also lost her brother. He was an Armenian fighter killed at the front in October. She's come to pay her respects at his grave.
For the first time in days, I found the strength to come and tell him that we had to give up our town.
The end of the war means no more families need to say goodbye. But the sense of loss and hatred left this time means that once again, this conflict is not buried. Patrick Reevell in Moscow for ABC News Live.
Patrick, thanks so much for that. And now to the big weekend ahead for NASA. After May's big test run, the first fully crewed mission on board a commercial spacecraft will blast off on Sunday. Now, before that, just a short time ago, a secret spy satellite lifted off from Cape Canaveral after several weather delays. Our Gio Benitez is there at Cape Canaveral in Florida.
1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Nearly 6 months after that historic test launch that sent 2 astronauts into space aboard a commercial spacecraft, the SpaceX Crew Dragon. Now 4 astronauts, 3 Americans and 1 from Japan, the first operational crew, set to blast off Sunday on an 8-hour voyage to the International Space Station.
We are advancing medicine using the microgravity of space in ways that you cannot do here in the gravity well of Earth.
Sunday's launch will have history on board. Astronaut Victor Glover will become the first black astronaut to stay on the ISS for a long-term mission.
The thought of flying in here and rocketing out, it's just surreal. It really is.
And he says he's going to help his 4 daughters with their homework from space. Victor Glover, a very proud girl dad right there. Now, the 4 astronauts will stay in space for about 6 months, and they decided to give their spaceship a name fitting for 2020, Resilience. Lindsay?
Resilience, so fitting. All right, Gio, thank you. Up next, a mother and son find each other after 45 years.
The world may feel out of your control, but your happiness doesn't have to be. Learn the secrets to happiness. Listen to the 10% Happier podcast, free on Apple Podcasts.
ABC News honored winner of 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards, including the most prestigious honor, Overall Excellence in Television. ABC News, America's #1 news choice.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live, the 24/7 streaming news source from ABC News. Breaking news, live events, streaming nonstop. Original breakthrough storytelling from ABC News, National Geographic, ESPN, and it's all designed differently for you to stream straight to any screen whenever you want.
ABC News Live.
Streaming everywhere, right to you. ABC News Live. It's that easy to go there.
ABC News, America's #1 news source. Straightforward news, straight to the heart of the story. ABC News, straightforward.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? To figure out what's really out there.
And finally tonight, a heartwarming reunion between a mother and son decades in the making. Our Will Gans has the story.
The reunion between mother and son, 45 years in the making.
I've been searching for a long time. I always knew which adoption agency I came from. So I've contacted them 100 times.
In 1975, Brenda Van Sickle was only 16 years old when she delivered a baby boy and put him up for adoption in Fort Worth, Texas.
She only had me for 15 minutes. That's how long. And they didn't allow cameras. She tried to take a picture and they said no. They took the camera away from her.
And now, 4.5 decades later, after searching online, taking DNA tests, and getting help from his wife, Wesley finally struck gold.
I got a name, and then it was up to me.
Calling his mother, who still lives in Texas, to set up a reunion at a hotel near her home.
She never thought it was going to happen because she looked for me back before all of this was possible with DNA and technology and everything else.
Till finally,
she turned around. You just know, we don't need any more.
A moment a mother and son had been waiting nearly half a century for.
There wasn't a whole lot that we said, just hugging. That was it. 45 years.
What would your message be to folks who find themselves in similar situations to the one that you were in?
If I waited another 10 years, I might not have this opportunity.
What does family mean to you?
A family to me means support. And I'm realizing that more and more every day.
Nice story there. Our thanks to Will for that. And before we go tonight, our image of the day. Take a look at this. 2 actors filming a kissing scene for an upcoming Lifetime holiday movie, pulling off the smooch through the use of plexiglass and a little movie magic in the edit room, of course. A 2020 Christmas card right there. And that is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us, and have a great weekend.
I wanted someone who was strong and who was ready to be president on day one.
Will you pronounce your name for me, please?
It's Kamala.
Kamala Harris.
Hi, Kamala Harris.
It's really inspiration because knowing that she was born in Oakland.
She's from here. She knows what we go through.
Kamala's come from this neighborhood. She knows the steps from below to up high.
Do not be constrained by tradition. Do not listen when they say it can't be done.
She comes at a time when a lot of doors are opening, and she's not afraid to walk through them.
It is about having new leadership. We can have change.
I think it's a journey that is, frankly, an inspiration.
It really means a lot for someone African American to be in office, making a change.
I feel a sense of responsibility to stand up and fight.
She has a lot of important work to do.
The work's just starting, so let's get going.
Your next Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
That's what my mother said. She said, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last.
The road to the White House for Kamala Harris started here, on this block, Browning and Bancroft in West Berkeley.
So this is West Berkeley. This is my house where I grew up, 2236 Browning Street. Because of a lot of redlining in the Bay Area, they ended up here in West Berkeley, which was predominantly black, brown, immigrant community. Lots of Caucasians here too, but a very integrated neighborhood. So this is where Kamala and I grew up.
Not far from neighboring Oakland, the birthplace of the Black Panther Party, founded just 2 years after Kamala's birth at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland in 1964. Not far from the University of California, Berkeley, one of the premier academic institutions on the West Coast, where her parents met for the first time, a crossroad that would mold the future vice president.
Huey Newton was a regular in our neighborhood. Black Panthers had a breakfast program down the street at West Campus. So we would see Huey all the time. What I remember so much about Kamala is that she was very kind. I also remember her taking care of Maya. I mean, she was very attentive. You know, she took care of her sister.
A strength she by all accounts inherited from her mother, Shyamala Gopalan, a gifted woman with a sharp mind who bravely immigrated from India to study science at UC Berkeley in 1958. Shyamala met Kamala's father, Donald Harris, on the Berkeley campus protesting during the Civil Rights Movement. He also immigrated to the States from Jamaica and was a brilliant scholar who would go on to teach economics at Stanford University. Her only sibling, sister Maya, was born 3 years after she was. A couple of years after Maya's birth, their parents separated, making the young girls incredibly close. The younger Harris, also an attorney, would go on to have a major influence on Kamala's life and political career. A life filled with first.
There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools, and she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
We were close to the bus stop, and Kamala and Maya were close to the bus stop. But somehow we always ended up running.
Never close enough.
When Kamala brought it up on the debate stage and said she was in the second class of the kids that integrated the Berkeley Public School, I think it really just hit me so hard. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that. It wasn't something I even thought about, and it was something I enjoyed. I got a great education at Thousand Oaks. Bus ride was probably about 30 to 40 minutes. See the change in the neighborhood as we drive through. This is what we saw too, sitting on the bus. This is where Kamala and myself, my sisters and Maya, we all went to school here.
In her memoirs, The Truths We Hold, Harris celebrates the diversity made possible by what she calls a national experiment in desegregation, sending working-class black kids in one direction and wealthier white kids in the other. That diversity is woven into the fabric of her identity, a superpower of sorts as she broke barrier after barrier.
My mother used to have a saying, and she would say to me, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last. And
Kamala is claiming both her identities. She's proud to be a black woman. She's proud about her Indian heritage. And she claims them both. And she drops lots of clues, right, implicit and explicit, about her